welcome to the Providence College Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Chittum. Here at the Providence College Podcast, it's our job to bring you interesting stories from inside the Fryer family, and today is a very special production. We are actually live streaming this episode on Facebook and on YouTube, and for that, I want to thank Chris Judge, our producer and videographer, and his team for setting that up. Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate it. In addition to that, I want to thank our guest, Garrett Gamez, class of 2019. Garrett is a double major in accounting and in finance. Garrett came to the Providence College in hopes of winning a national championship with the men's ice hockey team. That changed last March. He collapsed during a game, and over the past summer, he had to retire from playing hockey and now serves as a student assistant for the program. Garrett, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And you're from Chino Hills, California originally, and then played juniors in Nebraska.
Correct.
So how and why did you end up deciding to come to Providence College?
Well, before I was committed to Providence College, I was committed to the University of Denver not right out of high school, my junior year of high school. Before I went to juniors, I committed to Denver. And over the course of the years of being recruited from them, they had a coaching change. And along with that, I actually got a call from one of the assistant coaches that had recruited me there. And my grades were not good enough to get into Denver. That was what they had told me, and so obviously it was a difficult thing for me to take in, but it was a big life-changing moment for myself. And what happened was the assistant coach both assistant coaches that I had committed to at Denver. One went to Dartmouth, the other one came to Providence College. His name was Steve Miller, and he was here the year they won the national championship. And so following my decommitment, I decided to play one more year of juniors and had a very successful year and happened to find myself back into Steve Miller's hands, recruiting me here to Providence College.
So what stood out the first time you came to campus?
Well, number one, it was a bit smaller than Denver, and obviously that was a Catholic school. I'm a firm believer. I have a very strong faith, and so that was one thing that I wasn't directly looking for in a college, but having that here was a huge addition to one of the reasons why I came here. And along with that, everybody seemed to know each other. It was very tight knit. I met a lot of people when I came here to visit, and I could tell that kind of everybody was on board and committed to making Providence College ice hockey a very, very successful organization.
And for you, you're a lifelong hockey player. Mm-hmm. And for the people who don't know what that involves, what does it feel like from a schedule perspective to grow up in hockey, from the practices, the games, the tournaments, the travel, all of that?
Well, especially being from California, because we don't have a lot of high quality player. When I was there wasn't a crazy high quality play. There was about a group of maybe 25 guys of my age group that were solid players that could move on to another level, and because of that we had to travel a lot to play teams in Michigan, New York, Boston, and travel all over the place. When I was 16 years old, I was part of a league called the Tier 1 Elite League, and I played for the Junior Kings organization back in California, and we traveled 9 times that year. It's one of the reasons why I had to do online high school my junior year of high school, because I would miss so many days of school and I could not catch up with schoolwork in regular school because they weren't excused absences. So I was taking zeros on a lot of assignments that I potentially could have done a bit better on. And so growing up in California and obviously moving on to play juniors and eventually college hockey, it's your life. And you make a lot of sacrifices for the game of hockey, whether it's missing family events and stuff like that. But it's you grow a new family when you're playing hockey, and every single teammate that you're with, your coach and everything else. Sometimes you're even closer to them than your family members, just because they're with you day in, day out, every single day. They see what happens to you, regardless if it's a heart condition like myself, or you're doing really well in ice hockey. And so even though it is tough, making sacrifices to miss things from family events and stuff, it's definitely a different type of blessing that, we all cherish playing hockey.
I can imagine. And for those of you who are watching this live stream on Facebook and on YouTube, if you have questions, you can submit them on Facebook. We'll also do a short question and answer session here for anyone who's going to be in our audience as well. So that leads me into your time here at PC. Specifically, last year, through the course of the year, you got better and better, and you really, your game evolved, and you had a pretty big impact on the team, from a production standpoint in the game. So what did that involve for you in terms of your improvement and getting to the point where by the end of the season you were very much involved in the outcome of games?
Right. Yeah, I think one of them was just confidence in the fact that you're taking a step into a new level. You need to feel confident, in every single game. And then I think that the second one was preparation, because I'm a double major in finance and accounting. That takes a big toll on how much sleep I get and stuff like that. And so I really made it, especially towards playoffs and stuff, was making it not pushing school aside, but at the same time knowing, okay, it's 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'm done with schoolwork. I need to focus on the game tomorrow or practice tomorrow. And I think a combination of both of those two, and just having that, like I said, overall confidence and good sleep really helped me, perform to my ultimate best, and it worked. It was something that, it was tough for me especially because my last 2 years before coming to Providence College, I wasn't in high school. And I took one community college course, and so I could directly focus on ice hockey, which definitely benefited me. But coming back to Providence College and jumping into a situation where, okay, now I want a double major and I got a lot of schoolwork to take care of, it takes a lot of demand on you, and so really managing that time is very important. That's one of the greatest things that you can learn in college and for the rest of your life.
So that was a big difference between freshman and sophomore year, was learning how to do that?
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. So going into the postseason, what was your personally and the team's outlook, before heading out to Notre Dame, and once you enter the Hockey East playoffs?
Right. Well, ultimately you want to win that national championship, but we know that, especially in Hockey East, every game is an ultimate battle. I know we played UMass Amherst here, and it wasn't anything, easy. We were battling with them. I think we won. I think it was a 2-1 or 3-1 in one of the games. It was a close game, and our ultimate goal, even though it was to win a national championship, we wanted to take each game at a time and really focus on that game, and kind of forget about the ending result, but just remember about the process getting there. So we had 2 successful games against UMass Amherst, headed to Notre Dame. The result wasn't, what we wanted, but we felt that we played our best, and they just beat us. They were a good team.
Yeah, they certainly were. And going into the second game of that series, the game where you collapsed,
right.
What was the first indication for you that physically something was amiss?
Yeah, it was actually on Friday. During the games on Friday, I would come back to the bench, and after my shifts, I'd feel this really weird vibration in my chest. Your adrenaline's going and everything else, and especially in playoffs, you play until you can't play anymore, and so I just kind of ignored it. I didn't really think about it and stuff like that, and it didn't seem like anything big. So following the game on Saturday, I warmed up and on the ice for warm-ups, and things were still a little strange. I was still getting these vibrations in my chest, but it wasn't anything crazy. It was just like Friday night. And so I went out there for a couple of shifts, and there was one particular shift where I had gone out, and I came off the bench, and we ended up getting a penalty. So we were on the penalty kill, and coach had called me right back out there. And during that time while I was on the bench trying to recover, I could feel those vibrations, but there wasn't enough time to where they would go away. So I jumped back out on the ice, and the shift was going on, and I started just getting like a heavy chest, really, really heavy chest, and these crazy vibrations in my chest. I knew at that time that there was something that's going on, and I'm trying to get off the ice, but when you're in your zone on the penalty kill, you're not getting off. Thankfully, one of our guys got it down, and I was able to get back to the bench. And I just remember kind of putting my arms over the bench, and Jake Wallman was on the left to me, and I was trying to catch my breath, but I was dazing in and out of consciousness, and I silently kind of looked at him and just said, "Get Sid." Sid's our athletic trainer. And Sid happened to be in the locker room treating another player that separated his shoulder a shift before. That's the last thing I remember. Then as my teammates describe, I kind of collapsed. My legs buckled, and I was down for they say a good 10 to 15 seconds. When I got up, they said I just jumped right up. My eyes, unfortunately, my eyes were in the back of my head when they were watching me collapse and stuff. But as I came back to consciousness, I was able to jump right back up, and it seemed like nothing had happened. It just seemed like I had, fell asleep for a little while, and here I am, at a hockey game, and it was pretty scary. I was definitely in shock, and credit to Notre Dame, they did an amazing job with myself when I did collapse. They were over into our bench within a matter of 20 seconds, and luckily they had doctors there that were taking care of me in a separate locker room, and got me from there to the hospital in a matter of probably 30 minutes.
Wow.
So yeah, it was very impressive. They did an amazing job, but it was definitely the most scariest moment I've had in my life.
So the next 24 hours, what did that look like for you just from a medical standpoint?
Right. Yeah, it was tough because the doctor that I was seeing at Notre Dame, because I was in the ER, he was a specific kind of trauma ER doctor. He didn't know specifically, what to tell me about the heart. He just knew, hey, you collapsed, you have an abnormal EKG. We need to get this further checked out. And so what happened was actually Bob Driscoll, he was at our game, and he was the one that actually came to the ER with me. That and one of the families that I had lived with while I was playing juniors in Nebraska, they were actually at the game. So they rushed to the hospital as well. So it was them three in the room with me. And they had expressed that they were going to have me stay over that night in the hospital, and then potentially fly out the next day if they could get me stable enough and feel comfortable enough to do so, which in return they did. And I flew back with Kyle Murphy the next day. Bob Driscoll went home that night with the team, and Kyle Murphy stayed with me throughout that night and brought me back to Providence.
So how did you feel during that time? Physically, did you feel like you'd had some sort of episode or anything like that?
It was crazy. I felt like perfect. Like I felt fine. Even after the incident, I walked off the bench by myself. I got into the training room, and they said, like, okay, well, tell me what happened. I go, I can tell you exactly what happened. I collapsed. I don't remember what happened in between that time, but I remember getting out of consciousness. I woke back up. I was able to stand right back up, and when I got to the hospital, I was a bit dehydrated, is what they told me, and I could feel that. But with that being said, everything else seemed like normal, and the further things got on and progressed into specializing what I had and everything else like that, the doctors necessarily couldn't figure out when was I born with this. I had an illness the summer before I came to Providence College. I was in the hospital for 11 days. So they were wondering, was it from that and different stuff. So this is something that I think that I've had for a long time. That's one of the reasons why I can't necessarily feel it, a lot of the things coming on. They just kind of come and go. And I guess that's the scariest part about it.
And since you think you've had it for a long time, it must have been hard for you to then at that point kind of come to grips with, like, wait, is this normal? Is this abnormal? Like, at first, what was your initial thought about a timeline of potentially returning to the team? Because remember, taking it back, you're in the playoffs at this point.
Yeah.
You're staring down an NCAA tournament bid.
Right.
Obviously, you want to get back onto the ice as soon as possible.
Exactly.
So for you, what was your what were you thinking in terms of a potential timeline?
Yeah, I was thinking the next game. I thought I was going to play against Harvard. Funny story about that. I really wasn't in a lot of communication with my roommates, who happen to be my teammates. I'm direct roommates with Vinny Desharnais. And I didn't really tell him I was coming back to PC that night. And I get back, and we had our special moment. He's crying in my arms and stuff, saying, "Don't ever do that to me again." But he goes, "So, when are you going to be able to, play again?" Like, he's expecting, you're going to have to take time off. And I'm like, "No, dude, I'm going to play this week. We're in playoffs, and I think it was just a little mishaps, and everything's going to be okay." And he's like, "No, you are not playing." So after I knew I wasn't playing that game, and we happened to lose to Harvard, I knew that I needed to take some time to really figure this stuff out. And credit to Providence College again; they did an amazing job getting me to very, very good cardiologists. I ended up at UMass General with some of the specialists down there, and they did an amazing job with me running specific tests to see what heart condition I have, and can it be treated? What are the negative aspects of you going back and playing hockey? And what are the positive aspects, and all different stuff. And so personally, I thought, okay, maybe this is just something small. You always hear those stories of people sometimes randomly fainting and stuff like that, and I quite honestly was going to think it was something of that nature. But come to find out, it was something a bit more serious and something that I had to take major consideration to with my future playing hockey.
And when did that realization start, brewing to the top, start coming to the top for you in terms of the medical procedures and examinations that you were undergoing? Because it was kind of a lengthy time span for you in terms of March 11th to finally a decision being made.
Correct. Yeah. About I would say about a month and a half into it, when I finally had gotten down to the cardiologist at Mass General in Boston, because I went through a series of just very normal heart tests. When anything happens to a heart, they have you do it's called a Holter monitor, and you wear a monitor for 24 hours, and they record every beat of your heart. And they explained to me that I had like over 2,000 heartbeats that I was supposed to have each day. And so raising from that concern, along with, they did a cardiac MRI, and they saw that I had a bit of inflammation around my heart. They knew that something serious had happened, and that's when I had went to Mass General. And my first conversation with Dr. Lubitz is his name. It was a bit of a kicker at me because, they are very, very smart, obviously, and they take these things very seriously. So I could just tell off of his vibe that things weren't going as I hoped. And that was a bit where, I broke down a couple of times and thought, well, maybe that was my last game, which was obviously tough, but, I knew that he was only trying to help me out and, look beyond just hockey, but my future and everything else.
Right. And during that time, you gave a couple interviews. One actually to someone who works at Providence College. We did a short little video on just your experience from the game, and then leading into the summer before an ultimate decision would be made on your future. I just want to read back a quote that you provided. It said, they were asked, "Are you worried about the results?" And you said, "I'm not. I know God has me no matter what. Regardless if I'm playing hockey or not, He's got a plan for my life." And you mentioned earlier that part of the reason you came to PC was because of your faith. And how has your faith been impacted, or how has it played a part in this experience for you?
Yeah, it's played a tremendous part. When a lot of things happen like this to people, there's two things that can happen. You can fold and crumble, and take the identity of just being a hockey player, and now that you can't play hockey anymore, your life's crumbled. Or you can take it in a positive nature and say, this is one stepping stone in my life, and I'm going to use this to bless and benefit and help other people. And that's the way I see it. I can't play hockey anymore, but my role necessarily hasn't changed on my team. I still try to make the guys next to me better every single day, and as long as I'm doing that, and influencing them in a positive way, no matter what I'm doing, I'm happy about it. Obviously it was a very tough decision to make, because I personally had to make that decision. But I knew that I have a future to look forward to, and God has many more blessings and many more things for me to do in my life to help other people, and I'm excited about that. And so, I'm not worried. I'm not going to live my life worried about, what's going to happen tomorrow. God's going to take care of me no matter what situation or place I'm in life. And as long as I'm seeking Him and looking to Him for my guidance, I'm not scared at all. It's just the nature of myself.
So have you always had that perspective on things?
I have. My parents raised me as a strong Christian, and I grew up in the church back home in California. And I guess you could say my biggest step forward in my faith was when I moved to juniors, because now I have to grow up as a man, and even though I'm still in high school and I'm not living with my real family, there's decisions and things you have to go through in life, and that's one of the things that I really credit to growing up in my faith and really relying on my faith, because there's a lot of times, throughout hockey careers, guys are getting scratched, or you're injured, or your girlfriend's doing something, really anything in life, they're going to come at you, and like I said, I'm not worried about those things, and as long as I keep a firm foundation in my faith and in God, those things don't really rock me that much.
And then over the summer, you released a statement saying that you were retiring from playing hockey. Right. What was that week like and that day like for you? Yeah,
it was tough, but I wanted to make sure that I gave credit to the people that got me to where I am today. I have a fiance, a younger sister that sacrificed tremendously growing up for for all of the things that I had to do. Missing soccer things, missing family things, missing school things, just for myself. My parents obviously playing a tremendous role in it and providing me the opportunity to play hockey, because hockey, number one, is not cheap in California.
I don't think it's cheap anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely not cheap, and they made a lot of sacrifices and really helped push me to where I am today. My dad's a construction worker, my mom's a nurse. None of them really knew too much about hockey. And realistically, my parents, regardless of whatever I played, they just wanted me to do it in the best of my ability and give me opportunity that they could for me to succeed. Along with that, my coaches and my teammates, I mean, those guys mean the world to me, and those guys, all of my coaches have played a key role in my success as not only a hockey player, but as a person. So it was an extremely tough week, but I wanted to give credit where credit was due to all the people that have helped me to get here.
Absolutely. And before we dive into how this year has gone for you, just want to remind people, if you are watching this live on Facebook or YouTube, you can submit questions via Facebook, and we can ask Garrett when the time comes. So at that point, once you kind of tell the world, all right, I'm not going to be able to play anymore, you then transition into the student assistant role here. So first, how did that come about?
Yeah, well, when I had called Coach and talked to him about my decision that I had made, it was nothing. He told me, well, you're making the right decision. Number one, I'm very happy you're making that decision. And number two, nothing's going to change. You're going to be a student assistant coach. You're going to be able to keep your scholarship on this or at Providence College. And although you won't be on, or he even said, you're going to be on the ice with the guys. You're going to be out at practice, although you can't skate around all the time. At a high pace, you can still mess around with them and stuff like that. So that's one of the things that I feel most blessed about it. Coming to Providence College is that they care about every single kid that's on this campus, and they're going to do everything that they can to really make your experience the best that you can have in these 4 years. And so it was pretty amazing, and I was very, very excited about, even though I wasn't playing, that I'm still going to be a big part of this team and be with the guys especially.
Absolutely. Were you worried about the scholarship?
Not really. I knew the nature of Providence College, and thoughts and maybe come through your head, oh, maybe I can't get the scholarship, blah 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 blah. But I wasn't that worried. Going back to Providence College is a very faithful college, and they're not a college that's going to try to gyp you when something of that nature comes to you. Matter of fact, they did the exact opposite. They wrapped their arms around me and said, whatever you need, regardless of whatever it is, you come to us and we can talk through it. We can help you out. And they did some special things for me that I'll forever cherish and take credit to.
So for you into this role, what's the transition been like? And on top of that, kind of what's been the most enjoyable part of this new role within the team, and what's been the biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge is just missing playing the games. I'm upstairs doing video, and some of the times you just look on the ice and you're just like, man, I wish I was out there. Right. But the most exciting thing is just, number one, learning new things, learning how the whole coaching staff works and stuff like that. And another thing is being able to help my teammates out in different ways, because when you're a hockey player and you're a student, you're focused on kind of more yourself. Now that I'm in this new role, I can give other guys or many guys guidance on different things, help out the freshmen and look at their game and say, oh, hey, maybe do this is what coach likes, or hey, try this stuff out. So it's really helped me, or I've been really excited about, taking kind of an overview look of the team and of the players, especially watching them when they're playing the games, and giving them guidance and, helping them out if they're going through, situations on the ice or off the ice.
Has your perspective on the game changed?
Not necessarily. I would say my perspective on how hard and rigorous it is to be a coach and really put together a successful college team and the things that you have to go through. That has definitely, you take a much broader look at it now, because as a player, there's only a couple of things you think about. Okay, what's practice going to be like today? Who's the next players coming in the next year? And how am I going to be successful on this team? Where when you're looking at it in a coaching perspective, there's multiple things that go beyond that you're looking at, to really drive a very successful culture in a college hockey team.
Now, one thing that comes up in every interview that I've seen about you when someone talks to one of your teammates or coaches or former coaches, and anyone who's listening or watching this podcast right now can probably attest to it, is you are an extremely positive person. So for you, is that something that has come naturally, or is that something that you've worked on over time?
I think a little bit of both. More so naturally, and I think that's one of the things that God's instilled me that I've been able to help people with. And I mean, for me, I've been through many challenging things in my life. I've had to retire from hockey. I recently had one of my best friends passed away from back home. And a lot of the things, like I said, in life are going to come at you like that, and it's how you respond to those things and how you learn from those things and grow. So I've always tried to be a positive person no matter how bad of a situation I've been in, and I credit that a lot to my faith and my reliance on God to be my rock and to carry me through those times, because if it wasn't for Him, I probably would not be as happy as I am. But like I said, there's not a lot of things in life that bring me down or that I hold grudges to. I carry on life. I'm happy, in the position that I am right now. I'm very blessed to be living this life, and I'll continue to believe that, until forever.
You make it sound so easy, but I think I can speak for anyone listening to this. It certainly doesn't feel that easy to stay as positive as that. So, thank you for going out of your way to do it, because it's one of those things where it certainly can be infectious.
Yeah. No, and that's what I mean. Like I said, there's times where you can sulk. There's times to be upset, and and if it wasn't for that, life isn't easy. And there's definitely times in my life where I've been very, very upset, crying or very pissed off, and of that nature. But overall, when you look at life and you look through these small things that you go through, even though they can be life challenging, moments, everything is, a glimpse in our life, and what happens to us, we have, like I said, two decisions to take those experiences and make good or bad out of them. And I try to make the best out of anything that comes my way.
Well, I want to read another quote that you gave and follow it up with kind of the final question of this podcast.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so there's always a lesson to learn in everything you go through, and there's a reason you're going through it. Your life, dreams, and aspirations can be changed in a second. And with that said, there's always something to push for. So for you, now that you've had all of these changes, what are you pushing for?
My goal in life is, number one, to lead more people to God, and for Him to be the number one most notable thing in my life. Like I said, regardless if you're playing hockey or working at a grocery store, there's always things to get better at. For myself right now, like I said, I'm a finance and accounting major, so I'm trying to do the best that I can in school. And there's different challenges that are brought to each and every person. But I think if you have a firm standing in your purpose in life, and you're confident in that purpose, I think that is very key to everyone, to know that they're loved, and we're here on earth not to have a negative impact, but a positive impact, and there's many different ways to do that. So I'm pushing to just have a positive impact, on people, regardless of what state I'm in, or what job I have, and potentially, maybe someday be a pastor and continue that, but whatever I'm doing, I've always had a mission to make the people around me better, regardless of where I am in life.
Well, it's easy to see why you're such a beloved figure with the men's hockey team and the campus at large. So thank you so much for joining us. I also want to thank anyone who's watching the live streams on Facebook and on YouTube. Also thank Chris Judge and his team for their production tonight. And I guess the last thing I can say is go Friars.
Yeah, go Friars. Thank you.
Thank you.